Hey y'all, what's happening? So, um, this is me continuing to talk about how I became homeless. And the first video, I was outside. We're not doing that again. I mean, I didn't mind it, honestly, because I do like getting out and, you know, the weather. It was just super windy. And I wish that I had something to hold my phone up so that um, you know, it was more sturdy. I wish that I had that, and I just didn't. But there were a lot of details that I didn't give, a lot of things that were left out that I wanted to kind of go back in and touch on just to give a little bit more insight to the story. So, I want to start where I'm just going to start from the beginning because I did talk about how I was already planning to move. And the reason why, things kind of happened the way that they did really fast was because where I initially lived in New York was on commercial property, which I absolutely loved my apartment. It was over top of a laundromat, and in the back was a park area, and beyond that I could see the river because I love being near water. Okay, I lived 4 blocks down from the dock, and I would go to the dock damn near every day, especially before work or after work, to put my hands in the water, to meditate. I just enjoyed being near the water. I always liked being near the water. Um, and it was just nice. Like, I loved the quietness of where I was because I didn't have neighbors, so to speak, that were connected to me. If anybody knows about the whole row home situation, and I didn't have that, I had space. You know what I mean? Um, and I could pretty much, like enjoy myself there, play music as loud as I wanted. There was nobody that I was going to disturb because my place was not attached to anyone. So, because I was already there, and it was a 2 bedroom, I was already there with my youngest son. My daughter had moved out, and my daughter had 2 children. Before she moved out, she was occupying my entire living room space. And my landlord had already insisted that she would not be able to move back in because it was already breaking code. And if she were to come back, he would have to give me an eviction notice. He had already been being very generous to me for the time that she was staying with me. Even though he kept on increasing my rent, it wasn't by much. But, still, I knew that it was because of my children being there, or my daughter. Um, and so her situation that she was in, it was just really bad. And the time frame of when I was going to move to Philly got pushed up. And I just have to say that, sometimes we tend to do, as parents, we don't always live for ourselves or do things for ourselves. And I felt guilty, and I felt really bad because I didn't have to take on the responsibility of figuring out what was going to happen with my daughter, and being in the position that she was in with her youngest child's father at the time. But I did, and yeah. um I also didn't have to choose to move to Philadelphia and live with my son. And this is me really just taking accountability for my actions. But I did that for my daughter simply because of my grandchildren, and I did not want to see them on the street or in a really, really bad way. Even though I still was not in the greatest financial situation, I still was in a position where I was able to maintain, the needs of where I was. So I decided, we're going to make this move. We ended up doing it rushing, and because it was rushed, when I tell you it just didn't set well with it didn't set well with me. I knew that I could feel it inside that it really wasn't the best decision that I was making. If someone comes, I'm going to pause. I hear movement. So I knew that my landlord was going to give me 30 days if I decided to move her in. And I really felt that where I was living was like one of the best places that I had ever lived, because I enjoyed the freedom of being there. I had a really good relationship with my landlord. He was always willing to work with me. So, and he didn't want me to go. He didn't. It was over top of a laundromat, like I said, and so he would literally help me. There was a second space that was underneath of the apartment, and he kept on trying to get me to rent that space, because he's like, oh, you could do like your pies or whatever, or you could do your massage, like all this stuff that I was into doing. He was like, you could do it here, he's like, and I'll actually let you have the space for like 3-4 months before charging you, to help you to build up, your clientele, until you actually start to get, the revenue in that you need, and then I'll charge you. So he was very, very willing to work with me. At one point, he was trying to get me to actually buy his laundromat. He's like, you can take, he's like, you can take it. And it was in a good area. He made good business for himself. So it was just a lot though, but nonetheless, I ended up moving. Now, initially, my youngest son was not supposed to be coming with us, and I think I did say this. He was supposed to be staying with a friend, and that didn't happen. He ended up staying there with us in Philly, and that was not something that my oldest son was looking to have. So it was another adjustment that had to be made. And because of the way that everything happened and the separation between my oldest and my youngest two, they have different fathers. My oldest son has one father, and then my youngest two have the same father. And I believe that there was a lot of jealousy and animosity between the two, simply because of the way that things turned out in my oldest son's life. And there were things that I was really upset about too, but just the fact that he, one, felt that I had abandoned him, and to this day actually refuses to heed to the fact that the way that he's remembering it is not so, because my brother had told him, and even my daughter's father had given some clarity to the situation. But with him drinking and smoking the way that he has, he's just stuck in this place where he's not ready to heal yet. And so that has that was pretty much the launching pad to me of what got in the way of beginning to, escalate the problems that we ended up having. The other thing is, when I moved, I had decided that I was going to do Ubering, or at least Instacart, just to start, so I would have some form of income coming in that I could do like immediately. But because my car was still not paid off, I did not want to do that and put extra miles on my car. When I got my car, it was already at a little over 106,000 miles. So that was like a no-go. I'm like, I need this car to be able to get me, from point A to B, because it's, I considered it as part of my livelihood. Like, if that goes, then what am I going to do? I'm going to be fighting to get around, and I really didn't want that. So I wanted to save mileage on that, decided to do, something different. And so because I did not immediately tell my son this information, he got an attitude about that and looked at what I was doing as, not really working, like thinking that I was lying and taking advantage of him. So, getting to the so-called friend, Alice, devil, this is someone that I had known from the time that I was younger. Not younger, but I knew of her. She's a good, I'll say 6, 7 years younger than me. And I would always come into town and I would spend time with her. I really didn't realize how jealous she was of me. And, sometimes some of the closest people to you. And I was just so blinded to what I guess, wanted to see in her. Because I always try to look for the best traits in people. Now, I had another friend that I was very close to. And we ended up getting close through me doing her hair. And when I tell you, this chick is literally like a sister to me. And I would always tell her, I'm unable to come, at this time, or our time would get cut short of me being able to spend time with her, simply because Alice would take up so much of my time. Oh, can you just take me here? Can you take me there? And then on the way in between these places, she's always wanting to stop here, there, and the other place. And I'm like, well, I told such and such that I'm going to be meeting her, and it would run me late, and I would hate it. Then I would always end up apologizing to my other friend. I'll call her Amy. Okay. And so, Amy was very understanding. She said, no, it's okay, hon. Like, I know you have other people that you know, need to see and things that you need to do. And it's okay if, you had to do X, Y, Z with her. I understand. Just, see me when you're able to see me. So, I knew that I was going to be getting my deferred comp through the state, that was going to be coming. I still was running on my last checks from the state. And so I remember the day that my deferred comp came through. And I had been waiting for it. And I had traveled somewhere with Alice. And when I seen it, I was like, oh, wow. I said, my money came through. I said, so, let me treat, and we can go over to, I think it was Panera or something like that. And I ended up getting us some lunch. It was either there or somewhere else. It might have been Wendy's or something. But I ended up treating because I was like, my money came through. And she knew because I had told her that that's what I was waiting for. I didn't tell my kids because I kind of felt like it's none of their business. And whatever it is that I do, I know that I'll at least have something for myself. And then I'll also have a bit of money on the side to be able to give to my son to help out when it comes to bills. But I wanted to make sure that I had a way to still support myself and give to wherever I was staying, because I always like to give wherever I stay in whatever capacity. So I had got my storage unit on a deal where it was get this one and you get a month free. But because of me getting the storage unit in the middle of the month and not at the beginning of the month, when I ended up getting something that said that I needed to pay on my storage unit, or else they was going to, lock me out of it. And when I called, I said, well, I don't understand, because this is the time that I did. I said, I haven't even had my stuff in there for like a whole month. And she was like, oh, don't worry about it. Like, it's something that's automatically generated in the system. And so I was like, okay, but this was after I seen the email come through. And so what I did was I ended up asking Alice, well, do you have like $50 that I could have? Because I was going to use it to put on my storage unit right quick. And then when I got my money, I was going to pay it back to her. And when she received that, it was like days later, she hit me back up. But my money from my last check ended up coming through. Not the deferred comp, but my regular last check of working ended up coming through. And so my son was, talking about the bills and stuff, and I had gave him, $50. And I told him, I said, well, I Cashapped you $50 to help out with such and such. And this is during the time now that we're all together arguing because they had something to say. And I had told him that, he had said that he didn't need my money, and he don't like dealing with me. And I'm being disrespectful to him because I'm a liar, and I'm sitting up here getting money from other people to give to him, and he don't need my money. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I said, I didn't borrow anything from anybody to give to you. I said, this is my own money. And he's like, why are you lying? He's like, I know that you're lying because it came out of Alice's mouth. And so what I didn't realize that ended up coming out was that my daughter was on the phone with Alice and had it on speaker. And as she's talking to her, my daughter is asking her questions, and so Alice is sitting up there lying, saying, "Yeah, well, your mom has been, asking for things from me and asking about with me and asking to borrow money from me all the time, and that's why I just had to step away." And um, she was saying that she just didn't want to be involved in a situation. My thing is, first off, if you don't want to be involved in anything, then why would you sit up here and have a conversation like this with my kid? Why don't you just tell my child, you know what? This is something that I feel like you need to talk to your mother about, because I would rather not be, um, put in the situation of this whole conversation. Like, it makes me uncomfortable. And then come and talk to me about it as a friend. Talk to me about it. Don't talk, to my kids, but you go behind my back and then you lie and say all this stuff. So, um, when my daughter was on the phone, my son overheard the conversation. So he immediately thought that the money that I gave him, because it was $50, was $50 that I asked for from her, and that I got money from her and gave it to him. And I had to tell him that's not the case. I said, this is my own money. I said, I didn't get anything from her. He's like, see there, like, again, you lying. And I'm like, I'm not lying. I said, I don't have any reason to lie from you. I said, I can actually show you in the text when I reached out to her and when she actually reached back out to me. I said, and when you look at the text, you will see that the time period of when I gave you that money was before she reached out to me. And matter of fact, she never even gave me any money. So I said I didn't need it, and I tried to explain the whole thing with my storage unit and so forth, and he basically just didn't want to hear it. But when he talked about how he felt like he had gone through this with me his whole life, he basically was talking about how he felt abandoned from the time that I left him with his godmother. And then on top of that, from when he went to stay with his dad at 9, and him just being so young and us going through so much. I, of course, was like so many other people, a young mother, and I was trying to do what I felt was the best thing for my son to not have to be traveling around or in a messed up situation in the street in any kind of way, going through any kind of hardship, when I knew that his father had a decent place to stay. I trusted him to be with him, and I trusted my girlfriend, because she was trying to help me. And so a lot of it, again, was my son just thinking a certain kind of way of, this is it, and not wanting to believe me. And I'm like, I tell you guys the truth because I need for you to believe me when I tell you something. I don't have a reason to lie to you. You know what I'm saying? So that was something that hurt me, and it hurt me even more that this so-called person that called himself my friend was lying on me. But I realized that she was not a friend. And so when he put me out, he basically, I had in his garage, it was full of my things on top of me having a storage unit. Um, I had my massage table in there that I just got, a bunch of my books. Um, I really care about my books, like from when I was in school, college books. There were some videotapes and so forth that I had that were really dear to me from things that I had recorded that I would use. Just a lot of things. And I really wasn't able to get much. So once my girlfriend Amy allowed me to stay with her, because in my last video I was explaining how I started working with the Winolo app, and my son thought that I was lying, thought that I was just hanging out with Alice. But then, it was, she was saying that she was keeping away from me, but it really was I was keeping away from her, because I had started working and I stopped going around with her, because I was like, I felt like she really was just using me to get around, and she wasn't really compensating me the way that I needed to be compensated. Even as a friend, you don't take advantage of your friends, you help them. And at that point, I was always doing more for her than she was doing for me. So I stopped talking to her. She had given me a key to her storage unit that she was that I could use, and I never used it. And I'm glad that I didn't. And the one time that I did text her, I had told her that I was dropping off her key, and I was putting it in the mailbox, and I was leaving. Like, I didn't even want to see her when I dropped off the key to her, because she did reach out and ask me about the key. And when we stopped talking, and I told her, I said, I'll bring it by. I didn't need to see her, because again, you participated in something that led to my demise, and messed up, played a part in messing up the relationship that I had with my kids, especially my oldest son. So once I started staying with Amy, I was getting hit up all the time by my son, telling me that I needed to come and get my stuff, or he was going to put it out. And my brother had to get involved and, tell him, you know, your mom will get her stuff if she was able to, but don't throw it out. Like, that is, you getting to the point where you're kind of like burning a bridge. Like, there's just certain things that you don't do out of respect for your parents. So, the transition was very challenging, because I felt like all this stuff kind of happened overnight and I didn't understand what it was. But when I seen how my son was living and noticed how much he was drinking, I was like, I already knew that there was no real way that I would be able to have a rational conversation with him, simply because I don't know how many people understand what, after a while, like what alcohol does to your mind and your sense of reasoning. You know, there just was, it just wasn't, it wasn't good. I'm grateful that Amy was there for me, though, and allowed me a place to stay, because not long after I was there, I had to ask if my youngest son would be able to stay with us as well, because my oldest son put him out too. There was a situation that ended up happening, and because my oldest son has not had any experience with someone who's a diabetic, and my youngest son is a type 1 diabetic, he didn't understand what was going on. And my it was just a situation that happened, and he got basically put out when my son was needing to have some help, doing some things to try to work his blood sugar level to go down through, him trying to exercise and stuff, and making noise in the house. He was just trying to like jog in place and do some exercise to do that. And again, my oldest son, and not having any kind of interaction or understanding of what people that have diabetes go through, it was just a mess. And so he put him out. My girlfriend Amy let him come and stay, and I had told her that I was only going to need to be there up until February. Now, the time when all this happened, I left my job in September of 2021, and I stayed in my place in New York until October. By the 1st of October, I was completely out of there because, I cleaned everything out. And so this is going into the first 2 weeks of October. By the end, almost the middle of by the end of the second week going into the third week, I was put out, and I was staying with, initially I was in my car. And I was trying to get things. My girlfriend allowed me to come over and shower. I did not tell her what was going on at first. But I did that, and I didn't stay actually with my girlfriend until December. So from that time that I had got put out, hold on. It was 2 weeks. I didn't stay with her until I didn't start staying with her until sometime in November. It was sometime in November. Matter of fact, no, it was December, because the guy friend that I had, my ex that was in New York, he was the one that actually put me onto the Winolo app and was telling me to use it. And he said that if you are not like in a close proximity, like you're hours away, depending on the job that you get, they will actually pay for a hotel for you. He's like, so that might be something that you could do, even though I didn't want to be like so far away or have to work so far away, just to have somewhere to sleep at night or just be. But he ended up purposely getting a job in my area so that I would have somewhere to stay when he found out that I got put out, because I was for a few days in my car. And so he ended up getting a job where he was there for like a week. So for a week, I was able to stay with him, and it wasn't bad because the job that he had, he worked day shift, I worked evening shift. So when I was coming, he was going. When he was coming, I was going. But it definitely helped me because I, again, did not have any heat in my car because my air compressor was not working. And once that job was over, I got a little bit of money from it, here and there, whatever I could, but that job was, it was not good. But I used whatever I had to be in a hotel. and I was jumping from one hotel to another hotel. When I didn't have the money for the hotel, I was staying in my car. And I was still looking for work as much as I could, like steady work. I didn't want to just go through that app. But I talked to my girlfriend, and I finally broke down and I let her know like what was going on. And she was like, oh my God, like I wish you would have said something earlier. And so she talked to her husband. They allowed me to come and stay with them, and I ended up staying with them in the beginning of December. I was only there for 3 months, December, January, February. And I remember that it was only that amount of time simply because when I allowed my youngest son to come, when she let him come, when he got thrown out and he ended up staying with us there, when he finally left, because I told her that I would be leaving at the end of February, he ended up leaving on my birthday and did not say a word to me, did not say goodbye, just got his stuff and left. And it was devastating to me. And I did not start the job that I got as a manager over mental health house, residential house, until that following. I got the job in February, but it was not able to start until March. So I was there from March, April, and May. During that time, I was either in my car or I was in a hotel. And it was not the easiest thing because, again, it was during the winter time and I was trying my best to not be in my car. But I'm glad that I had like the covers that I had when I was, in my car. It was just really challenging, and I would just use my girlfriend's place to come over to shower. Her and her husband, allowed me to be able to do that because of the situation that they were in with their landlord. They really were not, it was in their lease that they were not allowed to have anyone occupy their space for more than a month, whether it be family or friend. So, I, did the best that I could. And all I can say is that when everything came down, especially with Alice, I stopped dealing with her because she had lied, and she really proved to be a friend. I tend to ask Spirit or God for signs, and so I really was having a hard time believing that she did not mean well towards me. And I asked for a sign. I said, well, let me know if she's really a friend. If she is, let me see a yellow hippopotamus. If she is not my friend and she really is an enemy, let me see a red snake. I chose those things for a reason. Yellow is the color of friendship. For friendships, like if you ever get like a yellow carnation, yellow is like the sign color for friendship. And I chose hippopotamuses because I was going through my hippopotamus phase. Just looking at their character and what they represent and stuff like that, I look at those things for spiritual things. And I chose, and that was for if she was a friend. Now, if she was an enemy, I chose red snake. And now I love snakes, but she does not like snakes, and her favorite color is red. And so I specifically chose a red snake to represent her. So I, did this prayer, and I'm expecting to either see a yellow hippopotamus somewhere or a red snake. And so it's not here. I was working out in Plymouth Mall area in Philadelphia, and I went into the Burlington Coat Factory, to go through there to get some things that I needed. And when I was going through the aisle, I saw, oh, well, I need some tarot cards. Let me see if I can find some new tarot cards, because I do tarot. And I got the, where are they? Because I had got these cards, and again, this is like a week later after asking Spirit to give me a sign. And I always say that if you're going to, when you want something, you have to be specific when you ask for signs of things. But you have to ask for a sign of something that is something that you really would not normally see, so that you actually know that your whatever it is that you are asking for, that it is what it is. And so as I'm going through the cards, the Seven of Cups cards, y'all see that? Right on that snake. And I was like, and I always go through the cards, because I'm like, oh, I want to see, the energy, and I'm looking at them. And when I seen that red with that snake, I was like, wow. And I was so hoping that it wasn't the case, but it was. Recently, I was telling this to my daughter, because we had a talk. Today's the 5th. We had a talk Wednesday on the 1st of this month, and I was telling her this, and she said that she knew, she had a feeling that something was off with her as well. And then when my daughter showed me, because she said, I do feel like she was lying. Then my daughter showed me a deck of cards, tarot cards that she has. And on her deck, it's a red snake. And when I say it's looking like dead, like right like this, and it's big red snake. And she was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, yeah. I said, trust me. I said, and I never seen your deck of cards before. I want to know what deck she has, because I'd like to get it. But I was like, yeah. I said, you see, I said, Spirit will show you. I said, and I have such a sincere heart when it comes to things. I always try to see the best in somebody, but that right there really did kind of devastate me. So I knew that there was no going back, and I just ended that relationship. I blocked her from all my stuff on social media, blocked her on my phone, like everything. I was just like, I'm done, and I'm not going back. I have no room in my life to tolerate people that would be so cavalier with my friendship, my trust, my love, that they would think to do something like this simply to save themselves, and not care, especially all the time that I have invested in her and things that I have done for her, like as a friend, like really bending over backwards. And I'm just like, not doing it anymore. So it's all been a learning experience on top of, with people. It's been a learning experience on top of just the things that I've had to deal with, because you really get to see who is really for you when they say that they are for you as a friend. You really get to see who is for you and who is not. Even when it came to family, and I'm not even going to go there right now, but I will tell you this. I have a video that I'm going to do, and when I talk about when I talk about what I talk about. Yeah, because family can be a bitch too. Anyway, that has been, I just wanted to give a little bit more insight into the situation to kind of fill in the gaps from, what I said on the first video so that you guys would kind of understand things a little bit more as far as how I ended up becoming homeless in like that time period too, because it wasn't like I went straight from my son's house into staying with my friend. It was a bit of time. It was about a month and a half, and I had to manage, in between staying in my car during the time, and it was cold, okay, in Philly, staying in my car and then staying in a hotel when I could afford it, and it was only like a few days here and there. So, there are some old videos that I actually did with my old YouTube channel that got deleted, where I was doing my tarot in the hotel or the motel, and I stayed at I think it's Motel 8. I think it's the Motel 8 in King of Prussia. It's either Motel 8 or Motel 6, one of those. I can't remember if it was an 8 or a 6. But I stayed there, and I tried to rent the room for a week at a time, which I did online because they told me that it was cheaper to do it online than to do it going in. I don't know what it was, but you get charged less. And it actually helped me, but I was never able to get up enough money saved to actually, get a place like I hoped. So I'll get into that in my next video, but that was just what I had to go through, initially. And I'm very resilient. So for anybody that is going through the same, has gone through the same thing, keep hope, keep your faith, and do whatever it is that you can to not lose faith. And my prayers are definitely with you. So that is it for me, you guys. I'm Ivy, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.